Guys, welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mirshahzadeh, and boy, do we have a special guest today. My main man, John Jackson, is in the house. What's up, John?
Hey, Darius. Really happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. For listeners who are not new to the show or who are new to the show, you will not know that we are about two things. I'm like tongue twisted right now. Well, the Greatness Machine, listen, we're about two things. We're about people who are living their passions and those who are creating greatness in the world. My friend John is neither short of passion nor greatness. So proud to have you here. John, do you mind if I do a little bit of housekeeping?
No, I don't.
First of all, I guess I want to give some background on how I met John. I met him through a mutual friend of ours, Kat Hoke, and John works with Kat at Hustle 2.0. For those of you that are seeing the video of this, you'll see that John has a Hustle 2.0 banner in the background. So we'll be talking a little bit about Hustle 2.0 in just a minute. But yeah, you know, Kat, who came from Defy Ventures, now she does Hustle 2.0. For those of you that listened to the past show, or she was a guest on our show, and she's a friend of mine. She works, goes into the penal system, works with the incarcerated, and uses entrepreneurship as a tool to help, essentially reform, people that have been incarcerated, give them the tools to take their hustle and turn it into entrepreneurial, value. And so, when I was talking to her, she's, you have to talk to John. You got to have him as a guest on your show. He's got a really compelling story, and I really think you should have him on the show. So I'll be honest with you, man. I just took her word for it. So you can thank Kat for this one. But do you mind if I give your actual formal bio, John?
I don't.
When she said that, I said, cool. I'm kind of fill out our forms, and I'll check it out. And it's. I've had, do you know Andre Norman, by the way? Have you heard of him?
I do. I've heard of him. I don't know him personally, but I know Kat knows him and speaks very highly of him.
Yeah. So Andre was a guest on the show, and he and I had a really cool conversation. And so you guys have a similar background, and I'm going to get into it right now, but he himself grew up, in outside Boston. It grew up in a really, hard environment, ended up in the penal system, worked his way through it, became a fellow at Harvard, and now he goes and speaks all over the country, and it's really involved in reforming, the prison system in the United States. And so you yourself are kind of doing the same thing through Hustle 2.0, but I just do want to give your formal bio. John was introduced to a life of crime at the age of 17 by a person who promised to protect him. And after serving 18 years in prison, he became entrenched in gang culture. He was locked up in Pelican Bay, one of the worst supermax prisons in the United States. And his life has been transformed. He now works with gang leaders nationwide to interrupt generational cycles of violence and incarceration. Currently, John serves as the Director of Correctional Partnerships for Hustle 2.0. And which is essentially a evidence-based trauma-informed curriculum used in more than 450 jails and prisons across the U.S. He's a co-author of 10 books, TEDx speaker, a keynote speaker for multiple organizations, advocating for second chances for the incarcerated. So, man, John, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking a leap of faith and trusting Kat's word that it was worth talking to me. I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. So man, obviously that's maybe 150 words to describe quite a life so far. I'm sure it's going to do it no justice, but I'd love to, go take us back to give us your background, and start from, where you're brought up and how you got into this gang culture. I'd love to hear that story, and then we could kind of talk about what happened and how you got to where you're at now.
Awesome. Thank you. I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, and I was raised with my mom. And early on in life, my mom, I don't know what she was into. I don't really remember much of that, but I did. One of the memories that really sticks out to me was when I was 11, I'm on my way to school one morning and I find a car parked on the side of the road, and that turned out to be my mom's murder scene.
Oh my God.
So I found my mom's murder scene. I never knew who my father was. So after that, I go to live with my mom's sister, my aunt. And she's the one who introduced me to a life of crime. She was a drug dealer. And I was with her one night when she gets pulled over. She's got drugs in the car. She's already been arrested. So she tells me, like, I'm 17. I'm a 17-year-old kid. She's like, John, like, if the cops find the drugs, like tell them they're yours. Like if they find them, they blame me, I'm going to prison. So I already lost my mother, right? Like I don't want to lose my aunt too, the person who like is supposed to protect me. So the cops found the drugs, and I told them they were mine, and she watched as I was handcuffed and placed in the back of a cop car and charged with possession, transportation, and sales of a controlled substance. And that was my first time ever being arrested. That was my introduction to a criminal lifestyle. And what I got from that was I got praise from my aunt, right? Like, good job. Like, this is what you do for family. You protect your family.
Wow. So let me ask you a question. So what kind of drugs were they? Do you remember?
Crack cocaine.
So she hands you how much? Do you know how much there was? Like
it was about 2 grams.
So not very much.
Not a lot.
Yeah. For you non-drug users, 2 grams of anything is not a lot. Go get a scale out and put it on there. So very small amount of drugs. Probably it's like under $50 worth of drugs, right?
Yeah, it was. Luckily it was towards the end of the night. She had already like sold most of her drugs off, and like luckily it wasn't more, because I would have, whatever, it didn't matter what it was, I would have said it was mine to protect my aunt. So
yeah, I'm like, it's pretty bad that I know the price of. I actually don't know the price of drugs. I swear to God, I know about crack cocaine. But
yeah, market value, like, dude.
Yeah. Oh, 2 grams is $27.70 a gram. I figured it was. I mean, that's not a lot. 2 grams is. I know what stuff weighs. Like 2 grams is a very small amount. There's 27 grams in an ounce, and there's 16 ounces in a pound. So I know my math.
Maybe just break down the math on drugs.
Yeah, let's talk about the price, the arbitrage price of weed versus crack. No, so of course, Darius goes straight for the comedy hour on drugs, on a teenager getting busted for his aunt's drugs. So did you go to juvie for that?
No, I went to adult county jail.
Shut the fuck up.
At 17. But thankfully, my aunt predicted it right, that it was my first time being arrested. They're going to give you a slap on the wrist and let you go. And that's what happened. A couple of weeks later, they released me.
So you go to, so you've never done anything wrong, like even like anything bad before this?
Of course, I'd stolen from the little like local store, little shoplifting, not minimizing. I don't want to minimize stealing as a kid, youth, adult, whatever, but just nothing at that level.
But I mean, you never had like gotten in trouble for it. Like,
no, I've never been arrested.
I was a chronic, like I was a total chronic shoplifter when I was a kid. So I had a problem. I've never admitted this on the show, but when I was like 13, I shoplifted for a little bit. And then
it's okay. I've done a little more than shoplifting, so you're no judgment here.
No. It's interesting as I've had family members that have grown up around aunts or uncles, or just their parents were not there, right?
Yeah.
And if their parents were in crime, and it's interesting to see, like, that's the environment. It's like you are what you're around, right?
Yeah.
So you get praise from your aunt, and then what happens?
So I got out like I said, get out a couple of weeks later. My aunt praises me for this, and I'm like, well, this is what looking back now, I know this is what I've been looking for since I lost my mom, right? I've been looking for this acceptance, this family, and I'm getting it. She's praising me, like, good job. So I leaned in. I'm like, okay. So I started committing aggravated. I escalated my crime pretty quickly. I committed my first aggravated robbery at the age of 17.
Oh, wow. So right after that, you're like, yeah. Oh, so were you like, what, were you excited to do it, or were you just like
I wouldn't say I was excited to do it, but what I was excited to do was provide, like, take care of my family and my aunt, and get that praise again of like, wow, good job. You're doing good things. You're bringing money in, you're making money. And I got praise when I would commit a robbery. I'd bring money home to her and like share my money with the family. It's like, yeah, good job. So she's reinforcing that this is good behavior.
Wow. And had she was like a drug, sold drugs. She was kind of in that drug lifestyle. she's selling drugs, and you know, for her, like crime was just, you know, it's part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
And it
one thing about my aunt, she's a natural born hustler. I respect her hustle, her grind, and like her entrepreneurial spirit. She just misused them. She misused them.
Yeah, so you committed your first aggravated robbery at 17, you said?
17, and I committed a string of aggravated robberies. I committed 4 aggravated robberies a couple of weeks after my release from the drugs, and was arrested like that a couple of weeks later.
Okay, so you did get caught pretty quickly.
I got caught really quickly. So after I was arrested for the drugs and released, before the end of that year, I was already on my way to a maximum security prison.
She didn't teach you the part where the most important part, don't get caught.
Yeah, she did not teach me the don't get caught part.
Yeah, that's like crime 101. Come on. So she didn't teach you that part, which, you know, that's obviously, you know, it's negative then, but probably in the long run, you know, positive. Because you would have probably created a lot more, you know, harm for people, or could have even escalated more outside of prison.
Yeah.
But man, so was that your second offense that you went to the prison?
Second offense, but it was multiple offenses that resulted in me going to prison.
Got it. And how long was the sentence for?
The original sentence was for 16 years.
What? 16? And you're 18 or 17 at this point?
I was 17 at the time.
So you're 17 years old. You just doing some stupid shit. I mean, listen, like, I'm not trying to minimize robbing a bunch of people, but 16 years, like, that's crazy. I mean,
yeah, I love that you said, like, I'm not going to minimize that. I hurt people. I created victims, and I traumatized them, and that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. But at 7,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What's aggravated robbery? Is that like, what's
I had a gun?
What's that?
So it means I had a gun. I put a gun to their head, or I used a gun in all of my robberies, I used a gun.
Was it loaded?
Yes, it was loaded.
Oh shit, man. Okay. So, all right. So that is, I mean, that's scary.
Yeah.
Right? And were you intent on using it, or you're like, I'm just gonna scare them?
No. I never intended on using it or physically hurting them. I definitely mentally and emotionally scarred them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's what aggravated. Sorry, I don't know all this stuff. So you so they throw I guess the term for that's throwing the book at you, man. They're like, yeah, screw this kid. Like, this guy's like, we're gonna teach. And you're in Texas too, which is pretty.
No, I was on the run. I went from Texas to California. So I was arrested for my first robbery in Texas, and I bonded out and I split. I went to California.
Oh, okay. So you were a fugitive, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
And I committed more aggravated robberies in California.
And so, where were you in California where you got caught?
I was in San Bernardino, Southern California.
Yeah, no, I used to work at gas stations near San Bernardino. My folks own Riverside County, but so you get caught in California, which is, you know, I guess maybe in some cases better than Texas, because Texas is hard on crime. I mean, it might have been impossible to get out if you were in Texas.
Yeah, I definitely believe that if I had been arrested in Texas, I would be on. It's a complete different trajectory of where I am now.
So you get into prison. You're 17. You've committed a few crimes, but dude, you're still pretty green, and you're a teenager. I mean, you're a teenager, dude. I mean, you're like, I mean, there's people. I mean, everyone does dumb shit when they're a teenager. Yours may have been a different type of dumb, right? But dude, you're still a kid, you know, total kid. So you're a kid. They basically try you as an adult.
Yeah.
And you go to prison. What prison did they put you in to start?
My first prison was Centinela State Prison. It's a level 4 maximum security prison. So that was my first prison. I went to. I was 18 when I got to prison, 17 in county jail, 18 when I get to a maximum security prison.
Hey man, what was that like?
So you hear all the stories about at least in California, that stuff is not true. Like, you don't walk up to the biggest dude and punch him. Like, there's none of that. I came from Southern California, so when I was in the county jail, I joined the gang almost immediately when I got there. I had all the skills that I have all the skills that make a great gang member, right? Like I'm a good leader, I'm a hustler, I have the ability to be violent. I had.
Okay, so you get there and you're like, did your aunt or anybody say, hey, listen, you got to join a gang? Or
No.
was this just like instinctual? You're like, all right, I've watched enough movies and like understand the way this shit works. Like I got to watch my back.
No, when I got there, some of the who eventually became my homeboys were like, hey, who do you run with? I'm like, I don't run with anybody. Like, you know, and I stood up to them, just made like, they saw that I had heart, right? It's like, and they were like, well, you're running with us now. So I'm like, all right. And I didn't know what all that meant at the time. But I was like, shit, you got a bunch of guys who are going to accept me and protect me, and I'm going to protect them. I got a family. I have my family. I got, yeah.
Well, so, and forgive me if my like understanding of prison culture is wrong, and this all comes from movies more or less. But so my understanding is like it's usually ethnic based, right? It
is.
It's like
I was part of a Mexican gang. One of the largest. I eventually became a member of one of the largest prison gangs in the United States.
So sorry, John Jackson threw me off a little bit. So
yeah.
So
my father was Mexican.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you're half Mexican, is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. So you're like, all right, that's my crew.
Yeah.
And so yeah, walk me through that experience.
So it was when I got there, I got to jail. The homies hit me up like, all right, you're running with us now. You're one of us. Here are the rules. Here are the regulations. Here's how we roll. Here's what we do. And I'm like, I love this. I love structure. Like we work out every day. We're clean. We do this. We do that. And I'm like, I'm in. So like, where do I sign up? And because of the skills that I have, my leadership skills and my entrepreneurial skills, I started to gain responsibility within the gang pretty quickly.
What does that look like in the gang?
In the gang, that means like enforcing the rules.
So give me an example of a rule.
So we don't. Sorry, I say we. I'm not we anymore. Not sleeping during the day, like shoes on, being clean, being respectful, presenting yourself respectfully. And some people don't do that. Like people don't grow up in that culture. But when you come in to jail or you come into prison, like you're going to keep a clean cell. You're going to, when program is running, when everybody's outside of their cells during the day, you will be awake and alert and on your toes and ready for anything.
Oh, so this is more of like a militant position.
It's the gangs are very militaristic.
Yeah.
There's structure, there are rules. Like the myth that fights don't just happen, right? Like it happens for a reason. Like somebody broke a rule or somebody did something wrong. Nobody just wakes up one morning and is like, I feel like stabbing somebody today and do it. It's not the way. That was not my experience in prison.
So, and you said that you were part of the largest prison gangs in the United States. What was the name of it?
I was a Sureño.
Sureño?
Yeah.
And is there
Southern California? You grew up in the Riverside area. Every Mexican that you were probably around down there was probably, if they were gang involved, that's what they were.
Yeah, I've heard that term, that name of a gang before. And was there any ties to like the Mexican Mafia, or is it all just like Southern California gangs?
No, it is. So eventually, when I work, I'm not a member of the Mexican Mafia, but eventually, when I started working my way up, I earned my way to Pelican Bay State Prison, where the leaders of the Mexican Mafia are housed, and they became my mentors and my friends, and that's who I was surrounded with. And it's the Mexican Mafia.
So using that terminology of working your way up, you were 17 when you got in, you were there, you worked your way up to Pelican. How long did it take for you to get to Pelican Bay?
I got there in 2013.
Okay.
So I went to prison in 2001. So about 12 years it took me to get there.
So you're 30 years old at this point. Now you had originally got a 16-year sentence, and my understanding is the way sentences work, and this is not federal prison, was it?
No, it's a state prison.
State prison, right? So my understanding is like, yeah, if you get 16 and you behave well, you can get out in like 7 or.
Yeah, I didn't behave myself.
Oh, so you were like, you got institutionalized. You're like, oh man, why do I need to go back out? I'm going to stay here.
Well, it wasn't that I need to stay here. It was at 17 or 18, 19 years old, like I couldn't see 16 years down the road. Like this was my life. The gang was my life. Prison was my life. And like I had settled on the fact that I'm gonna die in here, right? I'm gonna die in here. This is what I was made to do. I was made to be here in this place.
Because you were like thriving, you got a lot of like social authority, and people like were giving you praise for being a good soldier or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I'm making money. I get to sell drugs. I get to be an authority figure. I get to use all the skills, all these great skills that I have. I'm just misusing them. So like, why do I want to go anywhere else? This is what I'm made to do. I'm going to die here eventually, and just it is what it is.
Interesting. And so because of that, you were getting charged with additional crimes while you're in prison?
Yeah, I got 8 additional years added onto my prison sentence while I was incarcerated for engaging in gang and criminal activity and violence.
Interesting. Okay. And so you were there so you became a good prison, a good what will be the term?
A good gang member.
A gang member, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're thriving in gang culture. You're getting additional years. And so now you're like, dude, I'm always going to be here. So I might as well just do my thing and be good at this, right?
Yeah.
So you were ambitious in that sense, which, again, like this is Hustle 2.0 and Defy and all of these things that Kat has created are all really around taking these natural and or learned tools that are being misapplied and applying them in a positive way, right? So if we say all the things we just said, that you were a good leader and that you were great at carrying out orders or projects or executing on initiatives, and that all those things, a great leader, ambitious, hardworking, very disciplined. I just named 8 really important qualities of someone who's going to thrive in a corporate culture.
Yeah.
But misapplied.
If I told you, Darius, hey, do you want to hire a person who has all these skills and has proven them for 18 years of their life? Like, you'd be like, hell yeah, send them my way. I want this person as a part of my organization.
Yeah, they worked their way up. 18 years in the same, even to stay in the same organization for 18 years. That's unheard of.
That's what we teach our guys in our curriculum is that, hey, like, you have a problem. Loyalty is a problem in hiring people, right? Like, I want a loyal employee. I want somebody who's going to stick it out when things get tough or what, like, well, that's what it's about in the gang is like loyalty, sticking it out when it's tough. And like, it sucks sometimes, but I am loyal I was very loyal to my gang for 18 years of my life.
Yeah. I was going to say to the point where you're just bulking on years of sentence to your life. Right.
Yeah.
So after 12 years, I'm guessing because of the quote unquote crimes committed in prison, they escalated you to a worse prison because they're like, this guy's because they saw you, I guess, as more of a threat, right?
Yeah, I did. Every time you get in trial, so I did 4 years in solitary confinement, and my last term in solitary confinement was when I guess they decided, well, you know what, we've had enough of this crap. We're sitting in the Pelican Bay, and when you get sent to Pelican Bay is where it's the furthest prison away from anything you can imagine. It's isolated, and it's isolated intentionally because they put, quote, the worst of the worst up there in Pelican Bay. So my last SHU term, or the SHU is the whole solitary confinement, they kicked me out to Pelican Bay.
And wait, let me ask a question. So 4 years in solitary, meaning 4 straight years?
No, my longest term in solitary confinement was 15 months.
So 4 years cumulative.
Yeah.
Right. But 15 months, you did one stint for 15 months, a year and 3 months in a row where you were just like there for.
Yeah, it was 15 months in solitary confinement.
And what's solitary? What is that? Like you're in a box with a bed and like, that's it?
The way I describe it to people who don't know what that looks like is imagine being locked in your elevator, in an elevator. And now imagine being locked in your elevator without your cell phone or any kind of communication or contact. You're in there by yourself, and imagine that for an hour. Now imagine a day, now a week. And whenever you're going to get, quote, outdoor recreational activity, it's another elevator. That's your outdoor recreational activity. It's another elevator. So they pop your door, you walk down a hallway, and you go to walk in another elevator, and you walk around in a circle in there. That's solitary confinement.
Wait, is the outdoor, like the other elevator has no outdoor like light, natural light, nothing?
I want to say it's about a 30-foot high wall that has a screen and mesh on top of it. So no sunlight. It is intentionally meant. It is intentionally built to break people, to break human beings, to torture them. It's not to correct any behavior. It's strictly punishment, torture, and to break you.
And does it, I mean, I could see it that it would break people, but does it get people to act better?
No.
I was gonna say, I'm like, how do you, I mean, your first time, if you put me in that for an hour, I'd be like, yeah, I'll behave.
To me, whenever you're there and you have cops telling you like the only way you're going to leave here is in a box. Well, I'm like, well, screw you. Like, you're not going to break me. And that's the mentality that you start to adopt, is you are not going to break me. I'll freaking thrive back here. I'll do more than just live. I'll freaking thrive in this place.
Oh, in solitary, you're saying?
Yeah. I thrived back there. Like, it's working out, exercising. You have access to books, reading, educating yourself. It's like and when you go to the SHU, it's a rite of when you go to solitary, it's a rite of passage.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you do have access to working out and books?
Well, you just work out, you do push-ups, you do burpees, you work out in your cell. That's just what we would do. And you read and you study and you just become bigger, faster, stronger, and better at what you do. And they look at it as punishment. And yeah, it sucks to be back there, but it's also like when I found I was going to Pelican Bay, I'm like, you're giving me what I want. You're sending me to the freaking White House. Good looking out. Thank you.
Oh, you're excited because you're like, dude, this is, I'm moving on up.
Yeah, it's freaking Harvard. It's like whatever thing whatever group organization you want to be a part of, or you want that exclusive club you want to be a part of, you just sent me there.
And so you get to Pelican Bay, and in your mind, you're like, I'm the big time. Like I've graduated to like the highest level of like prisoner, right?
Yeah, I get to be around the people that I've always wanted to be like these leaders, these gang leaders, these top gang leaders. Like, I get to see them. I get to be around the top CEOs in the country now. So exclusive club.
So this was 2013. I'm trying to think this is right. I mean, they were bringing a bunch of like the guys from Mexico, was it the Sinaloa cartel?
Yeah, the cartels.
Yeah, they were bringing them up to the state. Were those guys up in Pelican Bay then?
No, they predominantly send them to federal penitentiaries.
Yeah, that's right. Those guys were all federal. So, yeah. but now you're working with like the most renowned gang members in the country. And what was that like for you?
At first, I was I'm not fearless. Like, I don't like the word fearless. I believe everybody has fear. So I was scared. I'm like, I'm going to Pelican Bay now. Like, this is real. Like, it was always known as an extremely violent prison. Like, you go there, like, it's violent. So when I got there, I'm like, oh shit, like here it goes, right? Like,
so up to this point, the violence was not so much.
No, plenty of violence, but you know how some places have a reputation. Pelican Bay has that reputation.
Where do a lot of the incarcerated get murdered there? Is that part of it?
Yeah, it's murders, riots, stabbing cops, like you name it. Like, when you get there, there's an expectation that this is. You got everybody that's there earned their way there. Nobody accidentally showed up at Pelican Bay. Everybody there has been to the SHUs, been stabbed someone, or been in a riot, or like it's not your average incarcerated person there.
So what got you there was what? Just the last time in the SHU, they're like, this guy is just too much. Like this.
It was my second time with using a weapon and getting caught with using a weapon. And that's when it's like, okay, like, you're stabbing, you're involved in riots, you're racial riots, you're doing all this. Now you're going to Pelican Bay.
So you were scared because you're like, oh, this is, I mean, at some part of you, it sounds like, was scared. The other part of you was to your earlier comments, was like,
yeah,
excited, I guess, a little bit.
Well, it's excitement mixed with that fear. It's like, yeah, like, crap, what am I going to have to do to measure up to everybody else? You have this expectation in your head of everybody else there. Like, imagine you're going to like this top CEO group somewhere, and you're an awesome CEO, you run a huge company, but you also have these fears and doubts in your head. Maybe they're like, well, maybe I don't measure up. Maybe what everybody else here is better than me, or so it's a lot of that same head talk.
Yeah, like, so almost imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I've only done a couple of stabbings. I've only been in a couple of riots. Like, I haven't really, did I really earn my way up here?
Wow. So you get there, and once, I guess, how was that? How was that transition?
It really wasn't all that. It's just, when I got there, it was just another prison.
Oh,
Wasn't
got it.
any different. It wasn't any different. Like, the culture there is very different, and that violence can happen at any moment. And like the cops, the COs there have a very different mentality, very different.
How so? Like more aggressive?
Much more aggressive. They are much more militaristic as well. I believe they have a reason to feel, to be a part of the us versus them mentality, because they have been stabbed, sliced, attacked by incarcerated people up there because it is such a violent prison. So it really does create a us versus them mentality, and they feed into it just as much as the incarcerated population does. And they're very aggressive. They're very, it's a very good old boys club. It's up in the middle of nowhere, predominantly white, older white men who have certain beliefs, political beliefs, and beliefs about people who are incarcerated. And the same thing goes for the incarcerated population. I once had a belief about them, who they are, who they were, why they do what they do, and those beliefs are dangerous.
Once you got set, so this is 2013. How long were you in Pelican Bay for?
I was in Pelican Bay from 2013 to 2019 when I paroled. I paroled from Pelican Bay in 2019.
So I got to assume like the chance of paroling from Pelican Bay is probably very, very low. Like if it's hard to get there, then it's probably hard to get out of there. Like what was it? What was the turning point for you at Pelican Bay?
The turning point for me was my 33rd birthday. It was actually the day before my 33rd birthday when I sat in my cell. I was supposed to go home the next day, but because of my gang and criminal activity, I was starting another 4-year sentence on my birthday.
Oh, so this is like this is my 16th year. I'm supposed to be out. And you had like an epiphany.
My epiphany was that I don't want to die in here. I don't want to die in a concrete box. Nobody will remember me. My homeboys won't care. I've seen plenty of my homies die. I don't remember their names, right? Like, nobody's going to remember me. I don't want to die in here. I was meant for more than freaking dying in a concrete box.
What do you think? Like, was it like a religious experience or something that just like made that moment happen for you? What was it? It's like a thought. Like, how did you come to that conclusion after 16 years of obviously moving in the opposite direction?
It was sitting in my cell. You sit in I want to say it's about an 8 by 12 foot cell, and my cellie is the person that you live with. You know, he went out to yard. I was like, I'm going to stay back today, and I just thought about. I really had the thoughts of like, this is really where I'm going to die. These four walls. One day I'm going to die in here. They're going to take my body out of this cell, and that's going to be the end of it. I don't want that. I want something more for my life. I don't want to die in here. I don't want to die in prison. I was like, well, what do I do about that? I have to. I've wanted to change my life, but here's the opportunity for me to do it. But you feel trapped. You're like, I'm in a gang. You know, the saying goes till the casket drops. And that is almost literal. The way out of the gang is death.
So if people want to bow out of the gang because they want to change their life, is the gang says, no, that's not okay.
That's not okay. What's
the rule on that?
There's one of two ways to go, which is you debrief or you snitch. I didn't do that. I did not. That's considered the most dishonorable way to leave the gang. And you're marked for death when you do that anyways. Pride, stubbornness, whatever you want to call it. I refused to do that. I refused to snitch and turn my back on everything I believed in up until that point. The other way is you just eventually get old and you age out and you die.
So you can't just say like, hey dude, I actually want to get out of the game. I mean, like there's no, so those are two options. You obviously didn't do either of those two. What was your option?
My option was bravery mixed with stupidity, coming out and I started incrementally changing my life, which was separating myself from my homeboys who were with the BS, with the drama, who were still heavily gang involved, and letting them know like, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, if you guys want to kill me, go for it. But I'm coming to this yard every day. I'll be right here, but I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not participating in gang activity. And it didn't happen overnight either. I didn't like, hey guys, I'm done. I'm out. It was small incremental steps to separate myself and show that, hey, I'm serious about this.
And what was their reaction?
At first, threats, intimidation, like you don't get to do that. You don't get to walk away. Like you're on this yard, like you're here. You're one of us. There's no way out.
But no one followed through on the threats.
No.
So when Andre was on the show, he's like, look, like I was like one of the. I think he said he was the top 3 gang member in the state, right?
Yeah.
He's like, you don't get to that level without doing a ton of stuff to like create a reputation for yourself. So he's like, I just like leaned on my reputation. No one messed with me. Was that part of it? Was that you had a reputation too? And people were like, all right, well, I don't want to mess with that guy.
Everybody has a reputation. When you're at Pelican Bay, everybody has a reputation. Like you're not the only one there that's stabbed people, killed people, or whatever. You got there for a reason. So reputations don't really do anything. But there is something about I had put in enough work, we call it. I had committed enough violence where people. And this is where I go back to rules and regulations. You don't just get to come out one day and be like, I'm going to stab this fool. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. I'm going to stab. My name was Tex. They called me John. My name's John. But I'm going to stab John today. Like, you don't just get to come out and think you're going to do that. It doesn't work like that. There's a chain of command. Like, John's messing up. He needs to be stabbed. Well, you have to follow certain rules and regulations before you can make that happen. And
sorry, go ahead, please.
And like, whenever that comes up for me, it's like, I was mentored by some of the top gang leaders. They knew me. They cared about me. So eventually they pulled me over and told me, hey, is this what you really want? I told them, yes, this is really what I want. They said, all right, that's fine. If that's what you want, we will let you go, but you can never come back. We love you. We care about you. And one of them who was my mentor was like, look, you were meant for more than dying in here. You can do so much more. You can have a huge impact. You can show people that former gang members, former incarcerated people, we're not the monsters. We're not just monsters. We're not just animals. We are more than that. So go home, get the hell out of here, mind your own business. Nobody's going to bother you. Nobody's going to touch you.
So he basically vouched for you then.
Yes, he gave me a pass.
So he's like, so you had whatever you had done, you gave him an opportunity to like, create an opportunity for you. He to your point, he cared about you and he saw your potential, right? And I got to assume like, it's a mixed emotion, right? If you're stuck in this setup, you're like, I'm either going to be good at this, but even then a part of you probably says like, well, I know there's a world outside of this. I mean, like clearly there is. Right? There's no question about that. And so that I guess that created that opportunity. So for you, over those, you started making those changes, and then that 4-year term came to pass, and you got probation. Is that basically what went down?
No, not probation. I paroled. So Thankfully, around the time that I decided my 33rd birthday, when I decided to start changing my life, Kat comes to Pelican Bay.
Wow.
So it really like all just came together right there. I want to change my life, but I really don't know what to do. I can make these changes on my own. And then I have Kat, who brings all these amazing people in there and starts telling us like, hey, you have value, you have worth. I'd never been told I had value or worth other than in the gang. But when they're like, wow, you're a great speaker, you're a great leader, you have so many skills and talents that could create impact in the world. And that starts to sink in. And I'm like, well, maybe these people are right. Maybe they, like all these successful entrepreneurs that she brings in here to mentor us, maybe they're right. Maybe they see something that I don't.
This was what year was this?
That was 2017.
Okay, so was that she was still doing Defy then? Is that correct?
Yeah, she was still doing Defy then. And we in Pelican Bay, just to give you some context, we had no programs up there. It's a lockdown prison where you don't have access to programming. You don't have access to any kind of rehabilitative programming. So this entrepreneurship program was freaking amazing because it's like, oh, I know all these entrepreneurial things. I just don't know the terms for them. Like, I don't know like the economics of one unit, but I instinctively know I instinctively know them, but I don't know all the technical terms for them. So starting to learn it was like, this was like, oh yeah, I'm like a sponge and we're just soaking it up there.
And so you got into her program, and for listeners that don't know what a program is, essentially this would be like NA, or these different like narcotics, or what was it, like
I would say a
Alcoholics
little bit
Anonymous.
different than that. This was it's like taking a class, like
Yeah,
taking
class.
it's like taking a class, entrepreneurship class with some life skills mixed in.
Right. So in prisons, they have these classes you can take to like make yourself better. And a lot of people who are doing the programs are trying to better themselves. Right.
Yep.
And is that looked down upon in the prison culture, or is that kind of
It was early on when I first came to prison, like I didn't program. And it wasn't only that we didn't program, we didn't have access to programming. So it took me 10 years to get a GED. I passed it on my first time, finished in the 90th percentile, but never had access to even take my GED for 10 years while I was incarcerated.
Yeah, which is crazy. When you start to like look at the system, you're like, what are we really trying to accomplish here?
Yeah.
Like, are we trying to like listen, like there's plenty of, I'm sure there's some people that probably shouldn't leave prison. Either they're mentally ill and they're dangerous to society or whatever, right? Or they're so entrenched in their beliefs that they're not going to change. But there's a huge population where it's just like they just had a rough go at it growing up, or they made some really stupid decisions, really stupid.
Yeah, really stupid decisions that harmed people and created victims. But when you start to hear the story behind it, it's like my interest. If I take ownership of the crimes I committed and the damage that I have caused, and I am using my life to live amends for that, I can't undo what I did.
Right.
I wasn't born a gang member. I wasn't born a criminal. There were a set of circumstances that led to that. Finding my mom's murder scene, having my aunt take a drug charge from me, and then like follow that trail. I wasn't born this way. I wasn't born a criminal or a gang member, but this is how I became what I became. And given the opportunity, I did take the opportunity to change my life.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you got to assume like it's a steep hill to climb, right? Especially it's not like you're like, oh, I'm 16, what am I going to do with my life? It's like you're like, no, man, I'm like 33, 7 when you got out, right? So 33, and I've spent half my life in prison, right? Like, and probably more than half of your life consciously as like your entire adult life, and then some, right? So it's all and to say, oh, I'm done with this, I'm gonna turn my life around.
Yeah,
it's like that's crazy. Like that by itself is a crazy thought. And so you started the program with doing Defy, and you worked through that. And how long was that program?
We did that program about 6 months. I graduated. I eventually became a peer leader in the group and got to mentor other people. We ran two other groups, so I got to mentor other people coming into the program, and that really started to solidify my change, because people stopped seeing me as a guy to go to for drugs or alcohol or whatever. They stopped seeing me as that person and started seeing me as the guy who like, hey, I need help on writing a resume. I need help on writing a cover letter. I need help in my business idea. And I became that go-to guy instead of being the go-to guy for gang stuff.
So you got out in 2000. 2017 is when you got out.
No, I got out in June of 2019. My 3-year anniversary is coming up.
Oh wow, months. Man! So 2012 is when you got there. You were there for almost 7 years. 7 years.
Right. Pelican Bay. I got there in 2013. So I was there 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, around there.
So you got out just before COVID.
Yeah, I did.
Wow. So how'd that feel, man?
To get out, at first it was overwhelming. So it wasn't a typical release. There was a typo in my transcripts that resulted in me. So I got shipped back to Texas and was handcuffed to a chair for 10 days because there was a typo in my court transcripts that they forgot to check a box that said I had served 18 years in prison. So I was looking at another 4 years. Thankfully, I had mentors and people who believed in me and helped me get an attorney and fight it. And eventually they released me. They admitted, okay, yeah, we're wrong. We made a mistake. And then they released me. And I actually, like, I didn't believe I was ever going to get released. Even when I was in the county jail about to be walked out, I always thought I had this thought, they're going to grab me and take me back. They're never going to release me. It's never going to happen. The system has screwed me over time and again. And then finally I was standing in front of like a glass door And I could just see people on the other side standing there waiting for their loved ones. And I'm like, this door's never going to open. They're going to grab me, cuff me up, and take me back. And then finally it opened, and I ran out of there as fast as I could. And I was free, and I tried to get the hell away from there as fast as possible, because I'm like, they're going to come grab me outside of here now. And eventually I went to stay with a volunteer that a friend of mine who let me stay at his house. And I just passed out of sheer exhaustion and being overwhelmed. It took a while to sink in that I wasn't in prison. I didn't sleep for about 2 weeks. Just from, I was so used to being in a cell. So being in a house where I couldn't see everything that was going on freaked me out.
Wow.
Every noise freaked me out. I was, for 18 years, I lived in a box where I could see everything. I know exactly what's going on everywhere within that confine. So to be in a huge house really freaked me out.
What about just like visually seeing like the world as it had changed? How was that experience?
It was very different to walk. So I was released in San Antonio, where I was born and raised. So like I went down to the river walk, right? And it was uncomfortable to be around people, because I was so used to thinking that violence can occur at any moment, that I'm on guard at anybody who walks near me or looks at me funny or stares at me. And it was not comfortable. It took me, I still work on that, and interact the way that I interact with people, and the way that people look at me, because people stare. It's what people stare out here. Well, in prison, people don't stare at you, because when you stare at somebody, that means, well, you must want something.
Oh,
problem.
Oh, you're saying just like people in general stare like this?
Yeah, out here, people like they look at you, they stare at you. In prison, you don't really do that too much, because it's like, what the hell are you staring at? And I was actually with Kat one day. We were at a coffee shop, and this guy is like staring. I'm 6'4", so I'm kind of a tall guy. It's not unusual for somebody who's tall to get to be looked at. And he was staring at me, and I know now that he didn't mean any harm, and he wasn't a threat to me. But I just gave him like the death stare. I'm like, what are you looking at? What do you want? And she's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what the hell is he looking at? What does he want? Like, why would you stare at me? You must want something if you're staring at me that hard. So I've had to work through to catch myself, to realize like, that's not the way I need to behave out here. And it's not the way to solve violence. It's not the way, aggression is not the way to solve problems anymore.
And so do you feel like now that you're, I mean, and I guess getting out, when you got out, it's like you walked into the world in like the world, the world got turned upside down the minute you got out, right? So
I was built for COVID. Like, people in prison, we were freaking built for COVID, for lockdown, for not going anywhere, for like getting super creative in my confines,
Yeah, like someone telling you what to do, and you got to wear a mask. And you're like, oh shit! People have been telling me what to do for half my life.
Yeah, whatever, no big deal.
Yeah. It's people who are used to being able to do anything they want.
Yeah,
have any rules, then it's like that they've had a lot of trouble with this. So yeah, I guess you're right. Like maybe it made the transition easier, because
it kind of did. Like, being stuck in, I wasn't stuck in my house. Like something that I was very grateful for, and that I acknowledged, was when I was in prison, I couldn't walk out of my cell whenever I wanted. I could step out into my yard whenever I want. Like, let's get perspective. Like, I want to acknowledge that everybody that experienced COVID and was locked down, that sucked, and it hurt, and it's painful, and it wasn't fun. But we can walk out of our house anytime we want, right? You can walk out and get fresh air. For 4 years in solitary confinement, I never saw, the longest was my 15 months. I literally never saw the sun. Literally, like, not like I didn't see the sun. No, I literally never saw the sun.
Yeah, I don't even. I think that it's unhealthy to do that. Like, it's actually like, from a health perspective, like you're actually like poisoning people. It's fucking crazy, dude. So congrats on doing the work to get out, man. That's awesome. And it's good to hear. It makes me happy to hear that. And so now you're out, and tell me, like, how was it to go from, being in such a unique environment to now you're in the non, prison environment, and you got to get a job, and you're like, like, how did that work? Because I mean, I got to assume it's really hard to get a job, and I'm a big believer that our system is totally fucking broken. Where, okay, I put someone in prison, and let's just say like every minute of that term you earned. Like, some people might feel like you didn't, some people might feel like you did. Let's just say like let's not argue that. Let's say fine, you got what you deserved, and you shouldn't have done the bad thing you did, and you paid your for your crimes, and now you're out.
Yeah.
Now you get out, you got this, like, you don't have a resume, right? I mean, your resume is like 18 years of being a stand-up gang member.
I have a huge gap in my resume.
Yeah, huge gap. like no job hopping.
Yeah.
But like, you can't put like I was the lieutenant, gang, colonel of the gang,
Yeah, no.
right? Like, no one's gonna, like, I got promoted 10 times.
Yeah.
like, do you understand? I was the fastest promoted intern in the gangs. I became almost the CEO. Like, no one's like giving you you don't get credit for that.
No, I don't. I definitely
outside,
don't have my resume. It's not in my cover letter either.
Yeah, shit. I took one from the team so many times. You can't brag about that stuff, but but you get out, and what I believe is one of the biggest reasons why there's such a high recidivism rate is that people are set up to fail, man. Can't get a job, can't live anywhere, especially, I mean, like, depending on what you got charged with, it's like really hard unless you have a really big safety net, social network. It's really hard to like get out and then go and you got to acclimate to this world that you didn't fit in before.
Well, on top of acclimating and getting a job, it's like when you get out, it's a legal requirement for you to have a job, but it's also a legal requirement for you to do like 8 hours of classes a day. It's like, how the hell am I supposed to go to work and go to all these classes and like report to my parole officer, have my parole officer search my house once a month? Like, it's almost impossible to meet all of the demands all the restrictions that the handcuffs they place on you after they take them off.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, if the goal and my issue with it on top of as double, right? Because I'm pretty hardcore like conservative when it comes to money stuff, and I'm like, I'm paying $100,000 a year for someone to be in prison, like, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
To then pull them out, to then not set them up to be successful, to then put them back in, and I'm like, this is such a drag on society financially. I'm like, this is a bad investment. Like, the whole investment's fucked up and doesn't make sense.
The way we like to describe it is if prison was a college and if you're paying $100,000 a year to go there, and these people get out, and we get out, and none of them find, and like, I think it's like 15% of them find jobs after you graduated from college, released from prison. That's a pretty crappy success rate. I wouldn't enroll in that college.
Yeah. I think they had them. They were like the University of Phoenix, like there was online colleges. They all got sued for that, right?
Sure.
Because you're not the outcome is not correlated to the investment, right? So forget about like the social, whatever your beliefs are on crime and prison and all that.
Yeah,
I just want to look at this financially. Financially, it is a bad investment. I spend hundreds of thousands. If I put someone in prison for 5 years, I spend $500,000 for them to get out, and then they go on welfare, and they can't get a job, and they it's like, and I'm paying food stamps, and I'm paying for them to, and they're basically like, and then they're like, fuck this.
Yeah,
it was way easier when I was in prison. This is like living in poverty. Shit's the worst. So I'm just going to go do what I was good at, which is commit crimes, and I'm going to go back to prison.
Yeah,
like, as would most people, right? Because
why not take the easier path? Like, yeah, prison sucks, but when you're discriminated against out here, when it's like, for me, I committed my crimes when I was 17. Like, this happened over 20 years ago, and you're still going to punish me for it. You gave me a prison sentence, right?
Yeah,
I did my prison sentence, and now, like, when I was released, it's completely legal in California for a landlord to discriminate against you because of your criminal history. But it is also a legal requirement for me to have a stable residence. How am I supposed to do that when I have to tell my landlord? Because the parole officer they tell you, whenever you apply for a place, you have to tell them you have a criminal history. Well, who the hell? Well, I have to tell you, hey, I have 7 violent felonies. Can I live in your apartment?
Yeah,
in your apartment?
Dude, I'm a landlord. If you told me that, I'd be like, You seem like a nice guy, dude, but no fucking way.
Yeah.
Like, you think my other tenants who are like VPs in Silicon Valley are gonna be cool with that?
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, dude, what do you, no, so it's broken on both sides, right? Because the landlord's put in a bad position, but so is the tenant, right? Which is, and it's all because here's the deal: if the recidivism rate was 1%, landlord wouldn't care.
No.
Right? Because landlord would be like, oh, we have a great rehabilitation system.
Yeah.
Like, oh, really? I'm so happy you got through that and you're being successful now. But the reality is, what's the recidivism rate? Like 90% or something?
It's almost, after 3 years, it's almost 90%.
Yeah. So the landlord's like, dude, I don't want my apartment building to be the next, crime scene.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that's the issue.
That fear is valid.
Totally valid. So you get out and you're like, all right, I got to go build a life. Like how did that go?
Well, thankfully, I had a job day one. Kat started Hustle 2.0 at Pelican Bay. She came in there. This lady's crazy and crazy brave, and pulled all the gang leaders into one room and just asked us like, "Hey, this what you guys want to be known for?" It's like, I'm not scared of you. Like, you think everybody's scared of you? You're just some big bad gang member. Do you want to be known for more than just being a gang member? And we said yes, and we started writing for Hustle 2.0. And we started using our voices for positive leadership. So whenever day one, when I got released, my job was to continue writing curriculum for Hustle 2.0. So I'm a rare case, unfortunately, that I had a job day one, and I had an amazing support group behind me who believed in me and helped me get an apartment, helped me get a house, helped me get a job, helped me find transportation, all the things that I needed to be successful. I had a freaking amazing team of people who said, you're going to be successful and we're going to help you get there.
Yeah. And it speaks to what we just said before, like having that community, right? Because community, I think this is all about community at the end of the day, right? Had you had the right community growing up, the odds of the things happening to you that happened to you or the crimes that you chose would have been way lower, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of are who what they say, like you are the average of your top 5 friends, right? Like and if your family is that, then and your family is telling you to commit crimes, and the odds of you committing crimes goes up exponentially, right?
Yeah. If I was in a group of CEOs and entrepreneurs growing up, all the skills that I had within me.
Yeah, you would have been like the 17-year-old intern.
Yeah, those I would have been able to learn from you and all these other awesome CEOs and all these people who are doing great, all these awesome entrepreneurs. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I was around people who said, this is how you use your entrepreneurial skills. You sell drugs, this is what we do. So I'm like, oh, this is what we do.
So now you're the Director of Correctional Partnerships for Hustle 2.0. What does that mean?
That means I am responsible for not only writing our curriculum, but kind of being the face to correctional partners and showing them that this program works, that engaging in rehabilitative programming can change. The prison system, the knuckleheads, the ones that you have the hardest time with. I was that person. And I look at me now, because I took these programs, because I did this, let me show you how we can implement this into your prison and how I can turn your hard to reach population, how I can get them to engage. And it works. They want to hear. They're like, okay, yeah, these are the knuckleheads. These are the guys who are stabbing my cops every day. These are the guys who are causing fires and riots. I need something to solve this problem. And that's where my job comes in, is showing them, hey, this is what we do. This is what I'm about. Because I don't know I do know what it means to not look like it. But I don't look like you don't see tattoos. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say I don't see any neck tats or anything like that.
They're all under here. All of my gang tattoos are under my shirt. So
you were one step ahead when you were in prison. You were thinking about that.
I was schooled differently. Like the reason why my homeboys loved me and like really I moved up is because I'm well spoken. I don't have tattoos. I'm diplomatic. They're like, you're perfect. Nobody would ever suspect you.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I'll be honest with you. I was like, I don't see any tats peeking out, right? and I'm not the street smartest, but I'm smarter than the average bear. So I was like, where's his tats at?
Yeah, they're there. They're all down here.
Yeah, you're good. You kept it low, right? So yeah. No, nowadays, dude, they tat their faces, and I'm like, dude, like you can't hide that shit.
You can't. Like when I'm walking in the streets out here in California, I can spot a gang member like
Oh.
that. It's bam, right there.
Hands too. Hands and neck and face. The hands are the quickest way.
And I actually like it that, like, when I gave my TEDx, a lot of people commented on there that I'm a fake. Like, this guy doesn't even have tattoos. I'm like, good. You don't think that I am that person? That's what, like, because I'm not. And the actual truth is, I'm not that person anymore. I'm not a gang member anymore. I'm not that person anymore. But it's really interesting that that's what people see. When people think of gang members, they think of tattoos. They think of all that. So when I was in prison, it was like I was taught, like, don't tattoo your face. You need to be under the radar, fly low. That way nobody ever suspects you.
Yeah, that's that you're lucky that was the culture, right? Because if the culture was, hey, dude, if you're one of us, you got to tattoo your neck.
Yeah,
you probably would have done it.
That was the culture. The culture is you get it blasted everywhere, all over.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but there are also people who are different. Like, even within that culture, there are people who are like, I don't need to do all of that to prove to you who I am. Like, I'll show you with my actions what I'm about. I don't need a tattoo to show you that I'm down, like, that I'm with the business. Like, I'll show you with my actions.
So so there's an element of luck there, right? That your mentors happen to follow that school of thought, right? Because your mentors could have been like, hey, homeboy, if you like really back us, like, and they're all tatted up, you're like, all right, I'm gonna look like you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're 17, dude, I know what I would have done if would anybody, like you're trying to survive, right? So you acclimate to the environment you're in, you mirror, you mimic. And so that's there's an element of luck there. There's an element of luck, it's half of it's luck and half of it's the work, right? Like meeting Kat when you met her and having that mindset. You could have met her 5 years earlier and you wouldn't have done anything with that.
Her and I have talked about this. If I had met her and the program before, I would have told them, like, go screw yourself. I don't need your programming. Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready yet. It took that moment of me realizing I don't want to die in here, and seeing, like, oh crap, here's an awesome opportunity with Defy and with Hustle 2.0 to change my life and making the most of it, and making myself valuable, and saying yes. Like, when Kat was like, do you want to public speak? I was like, hell no, I don't want to public speak. Like, and I really didn't. I was like, no, I don't want to stand in front of people and talk. And Kat's very persuasive. Like, no, you're going to talk. You're going to lead our events, and eventually I did, and it led to where I am today.
Oh man, that's so good to hear. So look, we're running. We ran out of time. Ran over actually, but I'm sorry. I was intrigued by the whole story. So, man, like, where can people hook up with you? I know you're doing Hustle 2.0. We can promote that, but if people want to connect with you, or have you come and speak at their events, or learn more about the stuff you're doing, how would they connect with you?
You can, I guess, I don't have a speaker page, but I do speaking. It all comes from people reaching out. You can email me at john@hustle20.com if you'd like to connect.
Yeah, so John, JOHN at hustle20. Yeah, hustle20.com. So you guys heard it here. We'll put it in the show notes. Man, John, such a treat to have you on the show, brother. And I'm so grateful that you've been able to do the things you've done in your life, and what you're doing right now is work that's important, and proud to have you here and have you be a part of this.
Thank you for having me here to share a part of my story and thank you for supporting the work that we get to do and being a part of this team. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of your guys' work, and anyone out there that wants to really help, you can go to hustle20.com and sponsor people that are using the curriculum that John's writing. I sponsor 59 of your guys.
You knocked out all the scholarships of people who were sitting in a cell. That cell I described, waiting for our books or waiting for that second chance. You knocked that out of the park. And if anybody else is having that desire to make a difference in someone's life that you may not even know, and offer them a second chance, go to our website and you can sponsor a scholarship or 2 or 10 or 20.
Yeah, dude, the best $50 I've spent times 59. So easy $50 to change a life. I'm down for it, and we all need to do our part. So, my friend, thank you so much for being on the show, guys. Man, what a treat, John. Thank you for coming, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Peace out. We love you.